Now, for more on Chinese innovation, let's turn to Andy Mok, live via Skype. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Andy, good to have you back on.
Great, thanks for having me, Rachelle.
Now, as we've seen, China has shifted to pioneering new ideas and new business models. What did China do to get to this point of innovating?
Well, I think China did several things. First of all, it built on the Confucian legacy of respect for education. And we could see this through thousands of years of Chinese history. And in some sense, that accounted for the four great inventions, the so-called four great inventions of the compass, gunpowder, paper making, and printing, all the way through today, where we see universities like Tsinghua and Beida leading in peer-reviewed publications in artificial intelligence. So I think that's one very important theme. Second, of course, is the role that government has played. Intelligent government support in terms of financial resources, preferential policies, really, I think, have played another crucial role. And we've seen this not just on Earth with 5G, AI, but in outer space as well.
So then which sectors do you now see China taking the lead in?
Well, I think there are three. Two that most of our listeners are familiar with. That would be 5G and AI. So 5G, championed by Huawei, is changing the world in the ability to move data very quickly. AI, through companies like TikTok, Douyin, demonstrate how we can process data more effectively. But the third one I think is most interesting of all, and this is less familiar, I believe, to our audience, and that would be DCEP, or digital currency electronic payment. So China has been the first country to roll out the digital yuan, or a fully digital currency. And while it's very early days, this can be transformational, and I believe will be transformational, not just for China, but the entire world. We think about money as the circulatory system for the world, touching everything everyone does, and that this is just beginning. I think this is going to be a very, very exciting area moving forward.
And in terms of China's position on the global stage, we saw that China ranked 14th among more than 100 economies worldwide in a benchmark innovation ranking in 2020, and it's the only middle-income economy included in the top 30 for 7 years. How do you understand this achievement?
I think to understand this, we have to understand that China is not either or. So certainly there are areas that are catching up in terms of economic development. Of course, China has defeated poverty, a scourge that has really been a problem for China for thousands of years. And it's under the Communist Party of China's leadership that this scourge has finally been defeated. But yet there are still challenges. So I think you're absolutely right that we can describe China as a middle-income country. But we also need to look at places like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, these so-called Tier 1 cities that are as advanced in every way as the most advanced parts of the Western world. So I think this is where a lot of the cutting edge R&D and the new developments are coming from, whether that's technological developments or new business models. And in parallel, we also are seeing advances in agriculture, hybrid rice, etc., that have changed the lives of people the world over that are still on the path to modernity and have not reached modernity as yet.
Now, obviously, we have seen some pushback as China has continued to grow. So then how important is self-reliance in technology and innovation for China, especially against that backdrop of growing unilateralism and protectionism?
Well, I think this is a very complex question. On the one hand, innovation can happen anywhere, and the ability for innovation to be shared and utilized freely is very important. I think we all know that. On the other hand, we do live in a very political and increasingly politicized world. And I think any country that is prudent would see the need to develop a certain amount of resiliency all across the technology value chain, from basic research to applied research to manufacturing to marketing. Because this is a feedback loop, after all, that technology doesn't exist in a vacuum, but we create technology to make lives better. And unless we can close that loop where technology created in the lab is turned into products that people actually want to buy and use, and there's market feedback to adapt those products to make them even better, that we will be missing out. So I think China's drive towards greater self-reliance is absolutely necessary, but the degree to that self-reliance, I think, still remains to be seen and largely will be influenced by geopolitics.
Well, we do appreciate your insights. Our thanks to Andy Mok there, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization.